A mechanic scams a broke customer, but when Elon Musk unmasks, his business ends. Elon drove his well-worn sedan into the busy mechanic's lot, the engine making an unusual clicking noise that turned heads, but not in admiration. Wearing a simple hoodie and jeans, he blended into the sea of regular customers. His car, far from the flashy electric vehicles he was known for, was an intentional disguise. Today wasn't about making an entrance, it was about uncovering the truth. As he approached the front desk, a mechanic with grease-stained hands and a confident swagger glanced up. His name tag read Mick, and his eyes flickered with a blend of curiosity and mischief as he noticed Elon's worn-out appearance. "Hey there, what seems to be the problem?" Mick asked, leaning on the counter, a sly smile creeping onto his face. "The engine's been making a weird noise lately," Elon replied, his tone calm and unassuming. "Figured it might be something minor, but I'd appreciate your expertise." Mick nodded thoughtfully, tapping his chin with exaggerated seriousness. Could be a number of things. Let me take a look." Minutes later, Mick popped the hood, glancing around to make sure no one was paying too much attention. His eyes darted across the engine, and with a smirk, he leaned back, arms crossed. "Oh man, you're in trouble," Mick said, shaking his head. "Looks like your timing belt's about to snap, and your transmission's leaking fluid everywhere. If you keep driving it like this, you'll destroy the whole thing. Honestly, it's a miracle you even made it here." Elon nodded, his expression neutral. "Sounds serious. How much do you think it'll cost to fix?" Mick rubbed his hands together, calculating the number in his head, exaggerating the cost in every way possible. "We're looking at least $5,000. And that's the discounted price, just for you?" Elon raised an eyebrow. "5,000? That's a lot." "Well, you get what you pay for," Mick shot back. "But hey, if you can't afford it, maybe you can find a cheaper place. Though I wouldn't recommend it. They'll probably just mess it up worse." The trap was set. Mick waited for Elon to panic, maybe offer a desperate plea or a promise to come back later. Instead, Elon pulled out his phone and made a quick call. Mick watched, confused, as Elon casually leaned against the car, speaking quietly into the receiver. A few minutes later, a sleek electric vehicle pulled into the lot, and a team of engineers emerged, tools in hand. They moved with precision, inspecting the engine as Mick's jaw dropped. "Wait, what's going on here?" Mick stammered, his confidence slipping. Elon turned, his calm demeanor unchanged. "I had my team come take a look. Turns out, there's nothing wrong with the timing belt or the transmission. In fact, everything is in perfect working order." Mick's face turned pale as realization dawned. He had just tried to scam one of the most famous engineers and businessmen in the world. The crowd around them started murmuring, some recognizing Elon and pulling out their phones to record the unfolding scene. "Elon Musk?" Mick whispered, barely audible. Elon nodded. "That's right. And while I usually focus on bigger projects, I couldn't ignore the stories I've been hearing about this place. Customers overcharged, unnecessary repairs. It seemed too consistent to be a coincidence." Mick tried to backtrack. "Look, there must have been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding," Elon interrupted, his voice firm. "You saw an opportunity to take advantage of someone you thought was down on their luck. That's not just bad business, it's unethical." The engineers finished their inspection, confirming what Elon already knew. The car was in pristine condition, and Mick's diagnosis had been nothing but a fabrication. By now, a sizable crowd had gathered, and the murmurs grew louder. Some customers who had been waiting for their own cars started to question the honesty of their recent repairs. Mick stood frozen, sweat beading on his forehead as he realized the gravity of the situation. Please?" "I didn't mean any harm," Mick tried, his tone almost pleading. "It's not me you owe an apology to," Elon said, gesturing toward the other customers. "It's them. Every person you've overcharged, every family you've taken advantage of." Mick looked around, his shoulders slumping as the reality set in. His reputation, his business, it was all crumbling in front of him. Elon turned to the crowd. "We all make mistakes," he said. "But it's how we respond that defines us. My advice? Always question, always verify. And most importantly, treat everyone with respect. no matter how they look or what they drive. The crowd nodded in agreement, some applauding. Elon handed his car keys to one of his engineers and turned back to Mick one last time. "Consider this your wake-up call," he said before walking away. As Elon drove off, Mick stood in stunned silence, the weight of his choices settling on his shoulders. It wasn't just about one lost customer, it was about the lesson he had learned the hard way. For the rest of the day, the lot buzzed with conversation, customers demanding explanations, and employees re-evaluating their roles. One thing was clear, the mechanic's lot would never be the same again. And neither would Mick. Mick stood there, still frozen in disbelief as the echo of Elon's words lingered in the air. The crowd slowly began to disperse, but the damage was done. Several customers stayed behind, demanding refunds and answers, while Mick's employees exchanged uneasy glances. He tried to regain his composure, forcing a nervous chuckle. "Folks, it's all a misunderstanding," he said, raising his hands. "We've always provided quality service here." But the tension in the air was too thick. Nobody seemed convinced. His words fell flat. Even his most loyal customers looked doubtful. Mick's knees felt weak as reality set in. He had just been publicly exposed by one of the most powerful men on the planet. Meanwhile, Elon was already miles down the road. The ordeal had been necessary, but it left him with a bittersweet feeling. He wasn't one to publicly humiliate someone unless there was no other way. His goal wasn't to destroy Mick's business but to shed light on the unfair practices hurting everyday people. He glanced at his phone as it buzzed with notifications. Social media was already flooded with clips of the confrontation. News outlets were picking up the story, the headlines screaming, "Elon Musk exposes corrupt mechanic in undercover sting." As expected, the reactions were swift. Some praised Elon for standing up for regular folks. Others criticized him for his dramatic approach. Still, the message was loud and clear. This kind of behavior had to stop. Elon leaned back in his seat, taking a deep breath. His mind was already racing to his next challenge. It wasn't enough to call out one bad actor. What could be done to prevent this from happening elsewhere? His thoughts turned toward creating a transparent, accessible system for car repairs, where customers could verify diagnoses and compare repair quotes in real time. Later that evening, Elon found himself back at his headquarters. His closest team gathered around, intrigued by the events of the day. "That was bold," said Sarah, one of his lead developers, raising an eyebrow. "What you did will definitely make waves." "Bold or reckless?" Elon asked with a half smile. "Either way, it needed to happen. We can't fix every problem in the world, but we can start by empowering people with information." The team nodded, already inspired. Elon's vision always had a way of igniting their imaginations. Within minutes, they were brainstorming ideas for a platform that could revolutionize the auto repair industry, a consumer-focused app that combined diagnostics, fair pricing, and user reviews in one place. Over the following weeks, the project took shape. They called it FixSmart, an app designed to help people avoid scams and get reliable information about car repairs. The launch was met with overwhelming enthusiasm. Stories poured in from users who finally felt in control of their automotive decisions. And Mick? His story didn't end at that mechanic's lot. The exposure forced him to take a hard look at himself and his business. After some serious soul-searching, he decided to change his ways. He reached out to former customers, offering apologies and refunds where possible. Slowly but surely, he rebuilt his business on the foundation of honesty and integrity. One day, months later, Mick stood at the entrance of his shop, watching a customer pull up in an old sedan, similar to the one Elon had driven that day. A wave of humility washed over him as he greeted the driver with genuine kindness. "How can I help you today?" he asked, smiling. For the first time in a long while, he meant it. Back at Tesla headquarters, Elon received a message from Mick. "Thank you for the lesson. It wasn't easy, but it changed everything." Elon smiled to himself. Sometimes, the most powerful impact starts with a small act. One confrontation, one decision to do better. It's a ripple effect that can change lives in ways no one ever expects. And so, another chapter in Elon's unpredictable journey closed, but not without leaving an indelible mark on those who witnessed it. His story, as always, was just getting started. Elon sat quietly in his office, reflecting on the outcome of the FixSmart project. What had begun as a spur-of-the-moment decision to expose corruption had snowballed into a national conversation about consumer rights. The app was a massive success, empowering millions of users and changing the way people approached car repairs. But Elon knew the work wasn't done. There were always bigger challenges on the horizon. Just as he began to jot down some notes for the next phase of the project, his assistant, Claire, walked in. She looked excited, holding a tablet in her hands. "Elon, you've got to see this," she said, practically shoving the device into his hands. On the screen was a video clip from a local news station. A woman stood outside Mick's auto shop, giving an emotional interview. "This app saved me hundreds of dollars," she said, wiping away tears. "For years, I felt like I was being taken advantage of, but now I have the tools to make informed decisions." Elon Musk didn't just expose a problem, he gave us a solution. Elon watched the clip in silence, a small smile forming on his face. He had always believed that technology could be a force for good, but it was moments like this that reminded him why he did what he did. Claire smiled back at him. "You're a hero to a lot of people, you know?" Elon chuckled. "I'm no hero, Claire. I'm just a guy who can't sit still when something needs fixing." He leaned back in his chair, his mind already shifting gears. There were plenty of industries ripe for disruption: housing, education, healthcare. Each one presented its own set of challenges, but Elon welcomed the complexity. It was what made life interesting. As he mulled over his next move, his phone buzzed with a message from his mother. "May, proud of you as always. You've never been afraid to stand up for what's right." He stared at the message for a moment, feeling a surge of warmth. Growing up, May had taught him the value of resilience and integrity, lessons that shaped the man he had become. Her encouragement meant the world to him, even now. He typed back a quick response. "Thanks, Mom. I love you." That night, as he walked through the bustling streets of the city, he couldn't help but notice how alive everything felt. People hurried past, lost in their own worlds, while street performers entertained small crowds. Food trucks lined the sidewalk, filling the air with the scent of spices and freshly cooked meals. Elon stopped at a small coffee stand and ordered a cup of espresso. As he sipped it, a man approached him, hesitating for a moment before speaking. "Excuse me, Mr. Musk?" Elon turned, smiling. "Yes? I just wanted to say thank you," the man said, his voice cracking slightly. "I used FixSmart to avoid a really bad situation with my car. It saved me from spending thousands on unnecessary repairs. I'm grateful for what you've done." Elon nodded, feeling genuinely touched. "I'm glad it helped. That's exactly why we built it." The man smiled before walking away, leaving Elon with his thoughts. Moments like this reinforced his belief that the smallest changes could lead to the most profound impacts. The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Elon and his team continued refining FixSmart, adding new features and expanding its reach. They partnered with reputable mechanics, offering users access to reliable services at fair prices. The project evolved beyond an app. It became a movement. Soon, other industries began adopting similar models. Transparent pricing and consumer empowerment became the norm, thanks to the groundwork Elon and his team had laid. FixSmart's success became a blueprint for tackling corruption and inefficiency in countless other sectors. But for Elon, the real victory was in the stories, the countless people who shared how the app had improved their lives. It was a reminder that innovation wasn't just about technology, it was about people. And as always, Elon's mind raced ahead, imagining the possibilities. There was always another challenge, another mountain to climb. But for now, he allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction. The world was a little better than it had been yesterday, and that was enough. Tomorrow, though, there would be more work to do. The news of the FixSmart app's success spread like wildfire, drawing attention from media outlets, tech analysts, and industry leaders. What began as a quiet personal investigation by Elon had grown into a nationwide movement, empowering people to take control of their car repairs and exposing corrupt mechanics in the process. Testimonials flooded social media, with countless stories of customers avoiding scams, saving money, and feeling confident when dealing with mechanics for the first time. The automotive industry, however, wasn't taking the disruption lightly. Several major repair chains formed an alliance, launching a campaign to discredit FixSmart. They claimed the app unfairly targeted small businesses, accusing it of promoting distrust between customers and service providers. The backlash was fierce, but Elon had dealt with challenges like this before. He gathered his core team in the conference room at Tesla headquarters. The room buzzed with energy as they brainstormed how to handle the PR crisis. Claire opened the discussion. The auto repair industry's accusations are getting traction in the media. If we don't respond strategically, it could hurt FixSmart's reputation. Elon leaned back in his chair, tapping his pen against the table. We're not going to fight them on their terms. Let's stick to the facts. If transparency is what they're afraid of, we'll double down on it. Launch a feature that lets certified mechanics verify and explain quotes directly to users. Let them see the real difference between honest mechanics and the bad ones. Claire nodded. That's brilliant. It shifts the conversation back to our core mission, empowering both customers and ethical service providers. The team got to work immediately. Within weeks, the new feature was live. Customers could upload repair estimates, and certified mechanics provided detailed explanations, ensuring transparency and fairness. Honest mechanics flocked to the platform, eager to build trust with a broader audience. Meanwhile, unethical shops found it harder and harder to hide their practices. Public opinion swung back in FixSmart's favor. The app's transparency feature became a hit, turning even skeptics into supporters. The media praised it as a game-changer for consumer protection, calling it the Yelp of auto repairs. As the controversy faded, Elon decided to step back into the public eye. He rarely gave interviews, but this moment called for it. He appeared on a popular talk show, where the host greeted him warmly. Elon, you've disrupted many industries: space travel, electric vehicles, renewable energy. Why focus on car repairs now? Elon smiled. Innovation isn't just about going to Mars or building electric cars. It's about improving everyday life. FixSmart is a small step toward making the world more transparent and fair. If we can prevent people from being scammed, that's a win. And if it inspires others to tackle similar problems in different industries, even better. The host leaned in. So, what's next for you? Elon paused for a moment, then grinned. That's a secret. But trust me, it'll be fun. The audience laughed, and the show wrapped up with applause. Back at Tesla headquarters, the FixSmart team celebrated their success with a small party. Claire raised a glass to toast. To Elon and the power of turning small ideas into big changes. Elon chuckled. And to all of you, because none of this would be possible without an amazing team. The celebration was short-lived. Elon was already thinking about the future. His phone buzzed with a notification, an email from a housing rights activist highlighting unfair practices in the rental market. He scanned the email, his mind already racing with ideas. Claire, he said, turning to his assistant, have we ever looked into how rental agreements are structured? There's something here that feels, hey. She raised an eyebrow. Not yet. Are you thinking what I think you're thinking? Elon smiled. Probably. Let's dive in. The rental market investigation quickly took on a life of its own. Elon, driven by a deep curiosity and sense of justice, began to see disturbing patterns. Predatory landlords were taking advantage of low-income tenants, using complex contracts filled with legal jargon to trap them in unfair agreements. Families were being evicted without warning, and rental prices were rising far beyond what most people could afford. Elon assembled a small task force from his FixSmart team, instructing them to research the rental market's darkest corners. Data analysts pored over housing contracts, public eviction records, and rental price trends. Meanwhile, Claire worked closely with tenant rights advocates, gathering stories from those affected by the housing crisis. Each story painted the same bleak picture, a market ripe with abuse, desperately in need of change. Elon, Claire said one morning as they reviewed their findings, this is worse than we thought. It's not just individual landlords, it's large property management companies that are manipulating the system. Elon leaned over the data on her laptop, his eyes narrowing. Then we're going to create something they won't see coming. Let's build a platform that puts power back into tenants' hands. One that simplifies rental contracts, explains tenant rights in plain language, and connects people with legal resources when they're being exploited. Claire nodded. We could call it Fair Lease. Perfect, Elon said, already envisioning how it would work. And we won't just stop at transparency, we'll introduce a rating system for landlords, just like FixSmart did for mechanics. Bad actors won't be able to hide anymore. Development on Fair Lease began immediately. The team worked around the clock, fueled by a shared passion for the cause. The platform launched just 4 months later, and the response was overwhelming. Tenants across the country flocked to Fair Lease, sharing their experiences and learning how to protect themselves from exploitative practices. Legal aid organizations partnered with the platform, offering free consultations to those in need. At first, landlords tried to discredit Fair Lease, much like the mechanics had done with FixSmart. But the platform was bulletproof. It was built on hard data and legal precedent, and every feature was designed with input from housing experts and lawyers. Even the harshest critics had to admit it was revolutionary. The media quickly caught on. News outlets hailed Fair Lease as a game changer, and tenant rights organizations called it a long overdue solution. Families who had once felt powerless now had the tools to fight back. Evictions decreased in areas where Fair Lease was most popular, and some landlords even changed their practices to avoid being flagged on the platform. Elon stayed mostly in the background, letting Claire and the team take the spotlight. But one day, he received an unexpected invitation from a national housing summit. It was an opportunity to speak in front of policymakers and industry leaders about the impact of Fair Lease. After some deliberation, he accepted. Standing on the stage, Elon surveyed the packed auditorium. Cameras flashed, and journalists leaned forward, eager to capture every word. Thank you for having me, Elon began. When we launched Fair Lease, it wasn't about disrupting an industry, it was about empowering people. Housing is a basic human right. No one should live in fear of being exploited or losing their home overnight. Fair Lease is just a tool. The real power lies in the people who use it to create change. The audience erupted in applause, but Elon wasn't finished. We've made progress, but there's still so much more to do. My hope is that Fair Lease will inspire others to tackle the problems they see in their communities. If we all take small steps toward fairness and transparency, we can create a world where everyone has a chance to thrive. As he left the stage, Elon's phone buzzed. It was a message from Claire. Check your email. You're not going to believe this. Elon opened the email, his eyes widening as he read it. It was from a group of healthcare workers exposing similar practices in the medical billing industry, hidden fees, inflated costs, and patients being charged thousands of dollars for routine procedures. The parallels were undeniable. Elon smiled to himself. Another challenge. Another chance to make a difference. He typed a quick response to Claire. Let's meet tomorrow. It looks like we're building our next platform,